This week, we are going to be talking about why doesn't my team care about school and how do I get them motivated? It's a topic that we hear several of our parents of kids with ADHD say that their children isn't motivated, that they say they don't care, that you see that they are acting in ways that don't show that they have intrinsic motivation, right? And what I mean by intrinsic motivation is it's not coming from them to do something. They are okay with just getting by or getting the C or not entering the honors program, even though you feel like they have the skill set that they to enter into the honors program and or to take an even more accelerated course. And so, the reason that is why we are having the talk today, it's because we do hear from a lot of parents that they feel their child is disengaged with school or their life outcomes. And that leaves you guys, as us parents, feeling super confused, very frustrated with them, and worried that our children aren't trying enough, right? We always think about that. Like, they're not trying enough. When they like to do something, they will figure out a way of doing it. And so what looks like not caring, right, to us may actually be a protective response to overwhelm, fear, shame, and even a learning difference that maybe we haven't paid too much attention to, or that we may have even missed. Teens are very motivated, actually. All teens really care as humans, right? It's a human basic instinct to care about ourselves, to want the best for us. And so I will tell you that your child does care, even though at times it may seem like they don't care. And I put that in quotes. We also know what fuels motivation for anyone, though, is autonomy, having a connection or feeling related to that thing that we're doing, and relevance to ourselves. Pressure and rewards do not motivate us, okay? So we'll talk more about that later, but that actually disengages a child from doing the task that we are hoping that they do. All right, so ADHD motivation isn't about willpower. It really has to do with how their brain is wired. Dr. William Dodson describes ADHD motivation as interest-based, not importance-based. And if you've seen this, right? So your child is very interested in doing, they're very interested in, let's say, video games. And so if we instill video games into the research project that they're doing, they are much more likely to do the research project because they're interested in it. And so when people with ADHD are interested in something, they will go down a rabbit hole, do all sorts of research, will create an outstanding report or project or anything, study for the test. Also when they like a teacher, right? Because they're interested in that teacher. They like that teacher. Teens with ADHD struggle to engage with anything unless it's interesting, it's urgent, or connected to a positive emotion. This is how dopamine is activated. All right. So if something's connected to a positive emotion, and I'll tell you, some of my college students will purposely put parameters in place for themselves that will give them that dopamine rush when they complete doing something, because they know it's going to bring them positive emotion. Another thing we really do with our students here is we will ask them, what's the feeling you're moving towards? That is something that we coach all our students on, because then once they can identify a feeling and how they're going to feel accomplishing something, they are much more likely to follow through. We do not work off of fear-based motivation. So, are you trying to avoid the panic, or are you trying to avoid the frustration? We work towards what is something that what are they moving towards? That's going to give them a different sort of sense of energy to move much more towards that than it is to move away from something. So we find ways to tie everything that we're doing back to these three categories. We've got to make it interesting for them. We make it urgent, right? And what I mean by urgency is that they've got a deadline and connected to a positive emotion. If we can tie anything to those three things, your child is much more likely to follow through. The I don't care is often masked as something deeper than that, because I promise you that they do care. Teens may shut down or act defiant when they feel helpless, when they are behind, or they are afraid of disappointing others. And the last they do not want to disappoint you. You are the last person they want to disappoint. The other thing is the I don't care, maybe because it's really hard for them. Again, they're feeling helpless. They're feeling incompetent of doing something. And so if you're noticing a pattern of your child struggling to learn, struggling to study, or you're noticing that their peers are completing the assignments or the projects in a much easier fashion than your child is, then maybe it would be helpful to seek an evaluation to see if there's something else underneath that. And if there's a possibility of them having a learning difference, which is what's making something so challenging. Because usually when kids feel competent in doing something, they will do it, right? But again, that's one piece of the what drives self-driven or self-drive. But if they do not feel like they are competent in doing something, they're going to put it off, right? It's like if we did not feel we were competent in training for a marathon, we would very likely put that training off and off and off. So, your child may shrug and say things like, whatever, even though I'm missing these 3 assignments, I'm failing anyway, so what's the point? And instead of, when they act like they don't care, what this child could be telling you is, I'm really scared that I can't play catch up. I'm feeling really bad about myself and ashamed, and I do not want to admit that, or I need help and I don't know how to ask for help, or I'm scared of the reaction I'm going to get, or it's really late and I'm scared of your reaction because I know you're going to get mad because I waited till last minute again, yet I need help. Right? So again, there's something always underneath that. So we always encourage parents, if you're noticing your child is struggling, start with curiosity over correction. When you say you don't care, do you mean you actually don't care, or is there something that's coming in the way, right? What is it that's actually coming in the way? Because the I don't care could kind of be a cop-out. They can't identify what's going on for them, or they do not want to admit it. So we really encourage all parents to avoid jumping to conclusions or lectures and start with curiosity and emotional validation, right? I can see that you're really struggling. I understand how difficult this must be, and I'm happy to support you. Please let me know how I can help. So get curious, really get curious, ask open-ended questions. There's often, again, something underneath the I don't care or the disengagement. And if you start with curiosity, they will be much more likely to open up to you and ask for support and feel comfortable in doing that down in the future. Teens need 3 ingredients, like we've talked about, to stay motivated. It's autonomy, feeling competent, and the thing's got a purpose. So autonomy is allowing them to choose, having them take ownership of how to make the decisions for themselves, right? The decision isn't being imposed on them. They're making the decision. I want to improve on this, or, I would really love to go to this college, and the requirement for this college is for me to get a certain GPA, and that is why I want to do this. They also need to be feeling competent. They need to feel like they have the skill set and the understanding to complete the project, whether it's on their own, or the task, whether it's on their own or with support from others, right? So if I do not know how to do this on my own, I know that I can ask for help, and these are the resources that I ask that will allow me to get me to the finish line. And the last one is purpose. So purpose is something that is meaningful to them. They are doing it because it's relevant to them. It's usually tied to values. It's a personal growth. It's out of respect. It is because I value independence. I value success. It could be whatever. It's usually tied to a purpose. And so once we have those 3 things and we can check them all off, then any person is much more likely to follow through on a task. Again, though, it needs to happen because the autonomy, they are making the decisions. It's not because they are going to please someone else. It's because their decision is to please themselves. Rewards and punishments rarely work. They will work for very short periods of time, but it very rarely works long term. What we recommend everyone to do is actually coach your child, and do not be the coach for your child because you are their parent, but coaching techniques would be super helpful that you can tie into your parenting. So again, bribes, I'm going to pay you this, or if you do this, then you get this back, are not going to work for them, and neither will punishments. Those are going to be very short term. They will comply for you, but it could be just for a week or two. Long-term engagement grows internal motivation, right? And so we talked about, usually it's tied to a value. Again, it's autonomy, confidence, competency, and purpose. So for example, if you don't finish your homework, then you get your phone taken away, that's not going to drive motivation. And it's not something that they're going to put for themselves off when they go out to college. If it works for them, if it works, it's very likely just to work for a few days, and then it's likely to stop working for you. So instead, we encourage you to shift much more to like coaching techniques, is what I'm calling them. But it's really open-ended questions, right? To help them to ask themselves these questions when you're not around. So what's your plan for getting this done in a way that feels doable for you, right? So rather than if you don't do it, right, you're moving them towards what they're looking for. So it's getting it done in a way that feels doable for you. So by what time do you want to have this done? What are you going to start with? What do you need support? Helping them really understand what's needed for the night, and also helping them set their own end goal. So again, open-ended questions. What's the hardest part about getting started? What would make this feel a little bit more manageable? Where are you getting stuck? How can I help? If they're really putting it off, it's you want to try this for 5 minutes and then give yourself permission to stop if this feels like it's too much, right? So again, you're really supporting them so that they begin to ask themselves these questions when you're not around, which is hopefully and ultimately what we all want all our children to develop once they go off to college. All right, so again, always start with curiosity and emotional validation. We always connect before we correct, and then we dig in with curiosity. Please, please, please do not assume that your child is doing this because they are being lazy, because they are not motivated, because they do not care. I can promise you that your child cares very much, and that there's something beneath what seems like they don't care. If they're showing or acting like they don't care, I'd get very curious about it. I would notice patterns. I'd ask questions or see what's going on for them internally. Maybe it's something that they're not sharing with you that's going on in their mind. Again, if there's a learning difference, some nutritional deficiencies, and sleep is another big one that we always look at. And, the type of support. Are they feeling competent? Are they doing this because it's to please themselves, or is it to please someone else? What's the meaning or the purpose for them in doing this? What are they getting out of this, right? What's the positive emotion that's coming from doing this? And hopefully that allows you guys to have a much more meaningful conversation, and you can support them in a way that feels good for both of you. All right, again, I know you guys are heading back to school. If your child is looking for support this school year, or you want to set the tone right and start the school year strong with executive function skills like planning, organizing, sequencing, please reach out to me. I'd love to schedule a call with you so that we can get them on a path moving in the direction that they are hoping to move into. We've really work with students that are in elementary all the way to our college students. Coaching really starts, though, around middle school, like the tail end of middle school, 7th, 8th grade, depending on child, and then high school, college, definitely. And we've seen kids go from failing and then being put on academic probation to thriving and getting straight A's and internships and jobs afterwards. So we'd love for your child to experience what it is that they want for themselves in life. And if that requires a little bit of support and coaching, we'd love to be able to help your family. So please reach out. I'd love to schedule a call with you and help you all with that.